Last Saturday, I stood in front of a room of ADHD entrepreneurs and I asked them a question that made them go very quiet. All of them are running incredible businesses, and all of them were walking in with that same feeling, being flat out, but the business isn't moving at the proportional rate of their inputs and their efforts. So I asked a simple question. Are you working on the one thing that matters, or are you just perpetually busy? And to no surprise, half of them couldn't answer. Because with a brain like ours, everything feels like the one thing that matters. So you do a bit of everything and ultimately move nothing. And I already know that you, the listener, are busy too. The only question is whether today actually moved your business forward or whether you fought fires till the end of the day and then just ended up collapsing in bed. Now, if we've not met, I am Jack and this is the ADHD Entrepreneur. So, quick version, a decade in business, the best part of 100 grand on mentors, and I still couldn't make myself do what I knew I needed to. Now, for years, I thought, what the fuck is wrong with me? But it turns out I have just got an ADHD brain. And once I started building the business around how it actually worked, instead of fighting it, things started to click. Now I help other entrepreneurs with this brain or one similar to do the same. So back to that question. Today we're going to be covering why we stay busy but never grow. The two traps that nearly all of us fall into without actually noticing, and I was the king of one of them, and the one idea that gets you out. We're going to be covering a law that some of the biggest companies on the planet quietly run on, Toyota included. And it starts with a story about a slow kid called Herbie. So why does this happen to us and not everyone else? Well, your brain, like mine, treats every single job in your business like the building's on fire. The unanswered email is a fire. The dip in engagement is a fire. The client who's gone quiet, the offer that needs tweaking, the dodgy link on your sales page. All of it is roaring at you at the same kind of heat, intensity, and volume. And to be fair to us, this is one of our genuine superpowers. If we drop an ADHD entrepreneur into a real genuine crisis, we're pretty exceptional. In that kind of condition, we can be calm, fast, and switched on. But when there's one clear fire to put out, nobody does it better than us. We were built exactly for that moment. The problem is that in business, there is never just one fire. There is typically 10 going on at the same time. And in our heads, they are all screaming for the hose at once. So we do what we're brilliant at. We grab it and we run. We put one out, we spin around, and then there's three more behind it over and over from the second that we wake up. And this is the bit that quietly kills the business and you in the process. We are world class at fighting the fire in front of us and completely useless at stopping for 1 second to ask which of these 10 fires actually matters right now. Because to what I call a hunter brain, every one of them feels like a 5 alarm emergency. And that's how you end up flat out from 6 in the morning till 8 at night. And the business hasn't moved an inch because you just fought fires all day. And you never stop to check whether any of them were the fires that actually count. And this firefighting tends to show up in one of two ways. And when I put this into my mastermind room last week, it split them straight down the middle. Half of the room were in Camp A, and the other half were in Camp B. And I'd put money on you sitting in one of them right now. Camp A is what we call the optimizer. When you can't tell which fire matters, you just make everything a little bit better. You do a little bit more marketing, then you tidy up the offer. You fiddle with the onboarding. You tweak the systems, you rewrite the welcome email for the third time. Everything in the business goes up by about 5%, and it feels productive to you because you're working, you're improving things, you're ticking stuff off. But what you've done is just smeared one bit of effort across 20 things. So nothing actually moves because you've diluted your attention and your effort across too many things. So you get to the end of the quarter, you look up, and you're basically exactly where you started. Busy everywhere, but forward nowhere. Then there's Camp B, and this one was me. I was the absolute king of this. Camp B is the builder. Let's say something dips. Let's say it's your sales that drop off. And instead of walking at the thing that is broken, you go and build something brand new. You launch a new offer. You build a new funnel. You maybe start posting on a new platform, or you start building a shiny new website. So here's how daft mine got. A few years back, I wasn't getting enough leads, and I knew exactly what the problem was. Nobody knew I existed. That was the fire. I had an attraction problem, plain as day. So what did I do? I spent ages building a beautiful CRM system to manage all of the leads that I was about to get. It was color coded, automated, the whole shebang. And I was genuinely proud of it because of how much time and effort I put into it. Except I had no leads to put into it. I had built the perfect garage for a car that I did not yet own. And the mad part is I knew better. Building that CRM was just more interesting than fixing a thing that actually mattered. The real fire was boring and a bit scary. So my brain quietly walked me towards the fun one and called it work. And that's the thread tying both of these camps together. Camp A and Camp B look like opposites, but they're the same move underneath. They are just two different ways of staying busy, so you never have to stand in front of the one thing that is actually holding you and your business back. So the real question then becomes, how do you find that one thing? Well, there is a story that makes it impossible to miss. Now, this comes from a book called The Goal by Eli Goldran, and I told it to the room last week, and you could watch it land on everyone's faces. So here it is. I'm going to share it with you. A scout leader is taking a troop of kids on a hike through a forest. They're all in single file, and it's one long line winding through the trees. It is getting dark, and he wants to get them all back to camp as fast as possible. So he puts himself at the back where he can see everyone and make sure no kid gets left behind. So they set off, and pretty quickly he can feel that they're going too slow. And at this rate, they are not going to make it back to camp before dark. Now, about halfway up the line, there is a kid called Herbie. He's a lovely lad, bit of a bigger unit, and he's got this enormous rucksack stuffed full of gear, and he's plodding along. Now, everyone in front of Herbie is striding off into the distance, and everyone behind Herbie is stuck crawling along at his pace. So you've got one long line with a massive gap in the middle, and a frustrated leader at the back who can't even see what's going on at the front. So he does what most of us would do in that situation. He yells to the front. He tells them to come on, hurry up, pick up the pace. And the fast kids at the front hear him and they speed up. Now, did the group get to the camp any quicker? No. All that happened is that gap got bigger. The front pulled further away, and the back, stuck behind Herbie, carried on at exactly the same pace. And that's because the front was never the problem. They were already fast. So shouting at the fast kids to go faster did nothing, because they were never the ones that were setting the pace. Now, eventually, he gives up yelling and he walks up to the line to actually have a look for himself. And there he sees Herbie. And that's the moment it clicks. The speed of this entire group of 30 kids is being set by one slow lad in the middle. Not the leader, not the fast kids at the front. It was set by Herbie. So he does two things. He takes the heavy gear out of Herbie's bag and he shares it around the others. Then he moves Herbie from the middle of the line right to the front. Now Herbie sets the pace from the front. He's lighter and quicker, and nobody can bunch up behind him. So the whole group speeds up as a result. So what's a slow kid on a hike got to do with your business? Well, the answer is everything. Your business is that line of kids, and it moves at the speed of its slowest part. However good the rest is, the whole thing is stuck crawling behind the one weak point in the middle. And right now, every single person listening to this has a Herbie inside of their business. Now, that story isn't just a nice metaphor. It has got a name, and it's one of the most important ideas in business that you've probably never been taught. Now, Eli Goldratt, who wrote that book, is the one who actually named it, and it is called The Theory of Constraints. And it's not some fringe productivity hack. It's basically a law that the best companies on the planet run by. Toyota are famous for putting it on their production line. They find the slowest machine, the bottleneck in the system, and they pour everything into speeding that one up, because that single point decides how fast the entire factory can produce. And the best operators in the world all do a version of this. They obsess over their Herbie. The whole thing boils down to one sentence. In a system, there is always one bottleneck, one slowest part, and it sets the pace for everything else. And the word always is the bit that matters, because there's never a version of your business where everything's running perfectly and there's no weak point. There is always one. And the day you fix your current Herbie, a new slowest part shows up somewhere else and becomes the new constraint. And that's just how systems work. And your business is a system. Your marketing feeds your sales feeds your delivery feeds referrals, and round it goes. And at any given moment, one link in that chain is the slowest. And that link is quietly deciding how fast the whole business can grow. So your actual job as the founder is simple to say and hard to do. Find the one constraint that's capping the entire system and throw yourself at that. The moment you lift it, everything behind it speeds up at once, which leaves you with one question that matters more than anything else in your business right now. What is my Herbie? So how do you actually find yours? Because in your head, remember, all 10 fires still feel exactly the same size. But I want you to start by walking the chain. Every business moves through the same 4 stages, and it's the lens we use to look at the whole thing. First, you attract. You get in front of the right people. Then you convert. You turn that attention into paying clients. Then there's delivery, actually getting them the result that they came for. And then finally, scale. The leverage, the team, the systems that let it grow without you touching every single piece. Now picture those 4 stages as a pipeline. You've got a tap at one end and a bucket at the other. And the water running through it is the stuff that you actually want. The cash, the clients, the results. Your whole job is to get as much water into that bucket as you can. If any one stage of that pipe narrows, the flow drops, and less water reaches the bucket no matter how good the other 3 are. So I want you to walk the pipe slowly and ask where yours is currently the narrowest. For me, a few years ago, it was right up at the tap. As I've said, it was attract. Water was still coming through, I had clients, but the flow was weak. Not enough was making it down the pipe. And I kept making the same mistake over and over again. I'd go and fiddle with the bucket at the end. I'd polish the delivery, tinker with the systems, build the beautiful CRM. But no amount of optimizing down at the bucket end changed how much water was actually arriving, because the thing throttling it was all the way up at the tap. And the only move that was ever going to fill the bucket faster was widening things at the front. That was my Herbie. And I spent months fiddling at the bucket end while the tap was quietly throttling everything. Now, your Herbie is almost always at the stage that you least want to look at. The boring one, the scary one, the one you don't quite know how to fix. So your brain quietly walks you off towards something more fun and then calls it work. If there's a part of your business that you keep finding clever ways to avoid, then there's a very good chance that that is exactly where your constraint and your Herbie is hiding. So when you find it, I want you to do the hardest thing in the world for a brain like ours. I want you to give yourself permission to let the other 9 fires burn. And I mean it, they can genuinely wait. The half-finished funnel, the rebrand, the onboarding tweak, all of it can wait. You can take that hunter brain horsepower, the focus that's so good in a crisis, and you can point the whole lot at the one stage that is actually holding your business back. And you can stay on it until it's no longer the slowest part. Then and only then, you walk the pipe again and you find the new constraint. And that is the whole game, one constraint at a time. It feels almost too simple, and that is exactly why it works. Because it finally gives a brain that wants to do everything one clear thing to finally aim at. So before you touch anything else in business this week, do this. Walk your pipe. The 4 stages: attract, convert, deliver, and scale. And ask yourself the question I put to the room. If I could fix one thing, and fixing it made everything else easier or just didn't matter anymore, what would it be? I want you to be honest and sit with that question. It's usually the stage that you've been quietly avoiding. And that right there, whatever the answer to that question is, that is your Herbie. That's the one fire that is worth fighting this quarter, and everything else can wait.